Hi everyone and welcome back. I want to show you something today that I would say is probably an intermediate weave. It's just something a little bit different. If you've seen my videos before, there is a video on how to create the initial part of this weave, which is why I'm actually going to start with it already slightly done, because you can watch that video, which I'll put a link to at the end, to show you how to do the first bit. And then this is adapting the weave to turn it into something completely different. And it's quite an interesting one. And it's kind of, I call it like sun rays or sunbeams going around the outside of your cab or whatever it is that you're going to be wrapping. So we start off today with a 20 gauge wire. I'm going to do it in silver. So I've already cut this, obviously, because I've already started, but I thought I'd just show you 20 gauge silver coated wire, and then we've got here our 26 gauge wire, which is what I like to use to wrap with. All you're going to need to start off with this one is you're definitely going to need your cutters, and I like to use the flat nosed pliers because those ones help me just to flatten out the weave. But you don't want to do that too much to begin with, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut away a lot of the inside of the wrap, and we're only going to leave one base wire in there to keep the stability. So it'll all become clear once I start to make it. If you're liking what you're watching, I'm sure some of you have watched other videos before, please do subscribe, hit the like button. Everything helps. I'd really appreciate it, and I love your feedback. So let's get started with our wrap. So what you can see I've done here is I've got 5 base wires that I've cut at approximately the same length. It doesn't matter too much as long as the wrap that you make is going to fit around the cab that you're going to use. Now I've got 3 different cabs here because I just wanted to show you that you can actually use any shape. So I've got one here that's a circle, so this one might be a little bit too long for the oval. Sorry, it's not a circle, it is an oval shape. I've got one here that is a teardrop shape, so this might be quite nice to wrap around the teardrop. And then I've also got one that is rectangular, so it's just to show you that you can actually wrap it around anything. I'm not going to show you how to finish it, I'm not going to show you how to wrap it, because this is really just about the weave and how we create it, but I'll just show you at the end what it looks like around the various different wraps. So what I've done is, as I said, I've got my 5 base wires that I've cut to approximately the same length, and I've started my triangular weave where I will show you how to do it, but we wrap 1 and then we wrap 2 and we wrap 3, 4, 5, and then we come back down again. And what I do on the tutorial for this is I really give it a good squeeze. Now I don't want you to do that with this one. So if you do watch the other tutorial, don't squeeze it too hard, because what you want to do is you want to squeeze it just to neaten it up. But if you squeeze it too hard, you're not going to be able to pull out the wires that are in between, and it'll all start to make sense once I carry on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just maybe 2 or 3 more times how to do this initial weave, and then we're going to start taking things out of this to create our sunburst, or it could look like a flower, I suppose, but that's just what I happen to call it. So what we do is we start with wrapping once around just that base wire, and then we're going to wrap again around 2, then we're going to go up and we're going to wrap around 3. I missed one there. Ooh. And it can be a little bit fiddly. This is why I kind of call this an intermediate wrap, because it can be a little bit fiddly, and if you're just starting to practice, you might want to practice on just 2 or 3 strands of wire, and there is a tutorial for that one as well. I do some basic weaves that you can look at. This one is slightly more complicated, but what I've done is I've just wrapped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up, and then I go back 4, 3, 2, 1 on the way back down, and that will create our triangular shape. Now at the end of this, once I've done this, I want to just neaten it up and make sure that it's all nice and firm and looking nice. But as I said before, I don't want to press too hard because I want to be able to pull out most of these wires So I'm just going to give it a tiny squeeze. I'm not even squeezing it really. It's just to make sure that they're all in alignment, because what we'll do is we'll go back and squeeze it later. So I've not really squeezed that down. It's still kind of up a little bit. But the wires are still kind of movable. So I'm just going to do a couple more of those just to show you how to do it. And then we're going to start removing the wires to create our sunburst. So I can go a little bit faster. Back down again. And again, bringing in my flat-nosed pliers, just a gentle squeeze. I don't want to squeeze it hard. One more, and then I'll show you how to create our sunburst pattern. So up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then back down again. 3 and 4. Sometimes they get a little bit crossed over, but you can just pull them apart again. Find your way. It's 2 and back down to 1. And what I'm going to do is just use my pliers again, squeeze those together because we want them quite nice and neat. Gentle squeeze. And then we're just about done. So just to finish off, I'm just going to wrap this a couple of times around the base wire at the bottom, because that's the one wire that we're not going to remove, because that's what keeps it nice and stable. So wrap that around, and I can cut off my 26 gauge. Don't need that one anymore. And we'll go, just finish that off. Now, I've made this fairly long on this side. You don't actually have to do that. You can measure it around your cab, but because I'm just doing this as an example, I haven't really measured. Now, what's quite nice sometimes is if you can just tweak these pieces out. So I've pulled the top one out, which means actually that I can use it again and I've not wasted too much wire. Some of it you will waste because you're going to have to cut it out, because it's not just going to pull. If you squeeze a little bit too hard or there's a little bit of a problem, you're not going to just pull out the strands completely. But what I'm trying to do is make sure that I can actually just take a hold of each level and pull it out. And actually it's working okay because I haven't squeezed too hard. So that's the next one. We're just pulling them out. And as long as you've got this quite strong kind of base wire in there, you should be absolutely fine. It's not going to fall apart on you. It's going to be totally fine. As you can see, as I'm pulling them out, it creates this really cool pattern across the top and a completely different look, because I'm actually wearing a bracelet with this pattern on now. And that will look completely different even though you're using the same technique. So I'm going to try with the next one. We may get a bit of a problem with some. We may not be able to pull it. So if that happens, this is when our pliers come in. So this is getting a little bit stuck, but I'm just going to keep wiggling. We're okay. Got that one out, which means that all these ones that I've pulled out, I can actually use again, so I'm not wasting too much. So next one, what I'm going to do with the next one actually is I'm going to show you if it does get stuck. Yeah, this one is stuck anyway. So I'm going to show you how we remove it. So all we're going to do is we're going to go in between, and we're going to very carefully, because you don't want to cut the bottom wire and you don't want to cut into any of the other wires. I'm going to very carefully just pinch that piece, and we're going to see if we can wiggle this one out. So just be really careful, because you don't want to pull it all and get it bent out of shape. But I've just pulled that final bit out, and you want to obviously leave that final wire in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if that has helped release it a bit. Nope. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the other side. I'm going to give it a little clip and pull that piece out. So these are the bits that you probably can't use again, but that's fine. We've only wasted one little piece, and it's not really a waste because we're creating something really interesting with it. So now what I need to do is try and get out all these little bits in between. So I'm just going to do that. And you can pull it apart slightly so that you can see where all these bits are to try and get them out. But you don't want to do that too much and end up ruining your design. So I'm going to bring in another pair of pliers here and see if I can just coax that bit that I've just cut off. This is where it does get a little bit fiddly, but don't panic because you can push it back together again. So I'm just going to ease that off. Nearly there. Twiddle it around a little bit. As long as you've got that base wire in, you can always push it back again. So let's see if I can get that out. Nearly there. Just going to use my fingers a little bit. There we go, I can see it now. It's just that one is sticking. Ooh. There we go. And I've got that bit out. So that's a tiny little piece that I'm getting out, and I can push it all back together again now. So we haven't ruined our design. As you can see, we've got it all there. And I'm still just trying to get out all these little extra pieces. You can try and do a slightly longer piece if you want to. I'm going to start on this end actually, because I can coax that along a bit. I've got a little bit of extra on this side. I'm just going to cut that right in there in that gap. And then I'm going to pull this along a tiny bit so I can find the end. And then we're just going to wiggle this piece out. So let me just attempt to do that. I'm pulling it apart a little bit here just to get these bits out. Push it back in again. Don't want to ruin my design, but look, I've pushed it all back together again so you can see that you don't need to worry too much about that. It's just trying to cut it at the right point where you can find the end and pull that along. There we go. I've got the end of that one now, and I can just coax that one out. Got that little piece out now. Push it back together again. We don't want to lose that really nice pattern that we've got. And we just need to do that a couple more times to try and get out the central piece. So I'm just going to wiggle these along a bit until I can find an end. Right, there's an end. And cut this off here really carefully. Grab the end of this one. Give it a wiggle. You have to just be a bit patient with this. If you don't do it too tightly, you should be able to slip most of them out. This is usually the bottom one. The second to last one is usually the one that gets a little bit stuck. So just gonna, there we go, we've got it. Wiggle that piece out. And how much more have we got left? I'm pushing it back together as I go so I don't lose that shape. I've just got, as you can see, this little central bit here. So what I'm going to do is pull this apart again, just a little bit. Let's see if I can wiggle this one out without cutting it. And it's coming a little bit now. Yeah, got it. Great. Haha, there we go. Longer piece. Got that bit out. Let's push this back together again. I might have lost a little bit in the middle there. I'll fix it. No problem. Oh no, we're okay. Not lost it. Right, so I've pushed that all back together again. Now what we're going to do to make sure that it's really nice and secure and we've got really flat little points is we're going to go along with our flat nose pliers and we're just going to give it a good squeeze all the way along, just to give it a nice shape. Not too hard because you don't want to lose that pattern. I'm just giving it a tiny squeeze. That one's lost its shape just a little bit, so I'm just going to fiddle around with it a bit, try and get it back on track. Nope, might pull that away too far from the camera. There we go. And give them each a little squeeze all the way along. And there you've got your little sunburst pattern. So what you can do now is take a look at what it's going to look like around your different cabs. So first of all, we've got this one. Now just imagine you've wrapped this cab already. So there is a tutorial on that as well. You've wrapped this cab already and it's got a little piece of It's got a little piece of wire all the way around the outside. You can just wrap this around like this and attach it with another piece of 26 gauge. I'm not going to show you how to attach them because this is just basically about this wrap. But if you look, it creates this beautiful kind of sun pattern all the way around. So then what I'm going to do, try not to drop your cabs because they might snap on the marble. I'm going to bring this one in, and again, you can just tweak it, give it a little twist, and it will fit beautifully around anything you want to wrap. So there's another one like that. That one will look really nice. I might wrap that one later. And then I've got my square one, so I can actually take this, manipulate it a little bit so that it fits around the square as well. And it just gives you a really interesting, different wrap around your cabs. So, although a little bit fiddly and a little bit of a pain, I've only wasted one strand of wire because I've still got the other ones that I pulled out before. And this can be used for all sorts of different things and just creates a really lovely pattern. So that is our little sunburst 5-strand intermediate weave we've got going on there. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again with another tutorial soon. See you later.